right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the wasmCloud community meeting for Wednesday, August 9th. Here is our agenda for today. We're going to start with a little bit of a demo of the Watum 0.5. I'm calling it a feature showcase, just showing off some of the things that we've been working on for the upcoming Watum release. And then we'll do a little discussion, talk about the roadmap, where it's at for now, and specifically try to update on the Rust host and Woodify efforts. So to get started, I'll do just a little bit of showing some things for the Watum feature showcase. Let's go ahead and go to the Watum repository. I set something up in the issues in the spirit of, setting up our roadmap and what we're going to be doing. If you go to the issues page and then you go over to milestones, you'll now see there's a V5 and a V6 issue milestone here. So very loosely, V05 is going to be the next breaking release of Watum, with new features, new fixes, and then pretty loosely anything that's not going to fit into V5 or isn't really prioritized for the short term is going into V6. So if we click into that issue milestone, anybody should be able to see things here. None of them are specifically marked as good first issues. I think that that's accurate, but I think in the future, I'd love to help set some of those things up so that people can have an idea of where we would like some help for contributors. So right now, one of them is complete, but all of these I think have work in progress. And the last one that I'm going to be demoing today that isn't quite finished here are version upgrades for actors and providers, and newly deployed applications don't terminate old resources. So this is really fun. I have this open PR that ignore this red X. It means nothing, but it contains some of the fun features that I'm going to show you right now. So let me go ahead and stop sharing. I'll reshare with my whole screen because I'm going to show a few things. And just give me a second to move things around. Things again. This is really fun. Okay, so let's go ahead and pop into the terminal a little bit here. I'm going to go ahead and launch Wash in the background, and I'm going to disable Watum just so that I can run it on my own. And then let's go ahead and open up a new window and go to Watum and run Watum. So as long as Wash is running, should be able to run Watum just fine. And if you don't pass this disable Watum flag, Wash will actually automatically launch Watum for you. I'm just using a newer version that hasn't been quite released yet. So if you're new to the wasmCloud community and you haven't heard of either of these projects, Wash is the wasmCloud shell, just kind of helps you bootstrap infrastructure. And then Watum, the wasmCloud application deployment manager, is essentially responsible for managing a desired state across the entire wasmCloud network or the wasmCloud lattice. So you can use this to create applications, and then Watum will declaratively manage those applications in the desired state for you. So if I take a look, if I query the current list of applications, we don't have anything defined. That is, kind of expected. We just launched it. But we have what I have set up here is our lovely pet clinic application. And in this directory in the repository, there is a watum.yaml. And if we take a look at this format, it's actually using the open application model format. So there's nothing, we have custom components here, but it's using the exact same standard. So this pet clinic application consists of 5 different actors, which you can see we have laid out here as components, including the image reference, and then a simple spread scalar trait, which is Watum specific for setting up, ensuring that there's a certain number of replicas running. You can also spread this across different hosts and things like that, but we're just doing it all local to start. So we have our 5 actors that make up our pet clinic microservice example. Would highly recommend going to check out the examples repository if you wanted to see more about that. And then 2 capability providers. So we have HTTP server and Postgres. So the first thing that you can do to create an application is to put the model. And if we list the applications after doing that, essentially what you're doing here is you're saying, hey, here's a new version of this application, but don't go and deploy anything yet. I just want to make sure that it's valid. I want to make sure that it is, properly able to be stored and parsed and all those things. So after we put the manifest, we can see that we have one application and its deploy status is undeployed. When you're ready to run the example, you can deploy the application model and a specific version. So if we say deploy Pet Clinic 001 and we list the application, we can see that it's currently compensating. And this is one of the new features to 0.5. It'll essentially report on the deploy status, very similar to any other infrastructure tool. But we go from undeployed to compensating. And now that everything is effectively deployed, we go to ready. And you can see that there are a bunch of new resources here in the wasmCloud dashboard. So 5 actors, a couple providers. And Wadum is actually constantly managing the state of, well, the entire network, but specifically this application. So if we go and delete the HTTP server provider, for example, then Wadum will go ahead and start one back up, because after that event happened, the state changed that made it different from the desired state. You can do the same thing for actors. You can do the same thing for link definitions, but they come back almost too fast for you to process that it's gone in the dashboard. It's great. So this is essentially what this is what Wadum looks like from the basic functionality. And one of the newer features to this is the status. So you can actually tell what's happening with the application, if it's fully deployed or not. Now, I want to show off one of the bugs that we fixed, and one of the other things that's going to be coming with this latest PR, which is manifest upgrades. And that's what happens when you deploy a new version of an application and it has changes. So whether it's scaling up or changing out resources. So what it looks like for you, once you've gotten your application deployed and you want to make some changes, you can simply update the version here in the manifest. And then say if we wanted to change this manifest to run 5 replicas of every single actor, like one just isn't quite enough for the scale we want to work at. So we can change that to update the replicas of every single actor to 5. And then I'll do it this way again, and then I'll show you the shortcut after. We can put that manifest, and then if we look, the latest version is 002. And we can deploy the Pet Clinic 002. Oops. Wash app deploy. If we take a look at the dashboard, we can see that it's already gone and started spinning all those things up. Great, we've reached the desired state of 5 replicas per actor. And we're good to go. So that's what it looks like to do a simple manifest upgrade. Now, let's say we wanted to do something, which is a really common story in just all kind of ops developer scenarios, where we wanted to upgrade one of the versions of the providers. So right now we're running HTTP server 17.0. This is actually, I think, 2 minor versions behind. Let me check. The latest is 0.19.1. Yep. So the old version, which is 0.17, say it has a vulnerability or some kind of bug in it. And so we want to be able to come into our manifest. We don't update any of our actors, like any of our business logic. We're just swapping out to the newest HTTP server. And we bumped the version to 0.03. Now, Wash app deploy supports the name of the model and the version. But you can also directly deploy from a manifest, very similar to a kube control apply. And we deploy from this manifest. This is actually going to do it's going to do a diff of the old manifest to the new one, and see that the HTTP server provider, the component, has changed meaningfully. The image reference changed. So as soon as we deploy this, it deletes the old version of the HTTP server and then starts the new version of the HTTP server. So if we check the inventory of this host, we can see that HTTP server 0.19.1 is running. We can do the same thing for example, with SQLDB Postgres. The latest version is 0.60, and we can deploy that new manifest, which should delete this old version of the SQL database and then bring up the new one. See if that went all the way through. Might just have to help it out a little bit. or maybe that was the wrong version. Whoops. Well, now you can see what it looks like to do a little bit of a rollback. We do pet clinic 004. I think that's the earliest one. 003. And we'll give it a second to actually go through and compensate there. But essentially what it looks like, here you can see that it's converging on the desired state, and we'll see the link definitions come up in just a second. So this is exactly what it looks like to do upgrades using manifest with Watem. So you can swap out this individual component, and Wash isn't going to, or Watem isn't going to, delete the entire application and then schedule it again. It should just be doing essentially a smart diff of what existed before and then what exists now. So taking a look at, I might have closed this out, taking a look at the Watem milestone for 0.5. The things that we'd like to get in there are version upgrades for actors and providers, which I kind of showed during that demo. I think there's still a couple of things that we want to work out with making sure that that works really clean. Newly deployed applications, terminating old resources if they don't need to exist anymore. And then from there, it's just a little bit of validation around manifests and a bug that we found for tracing, just making sure that that all works fine. So that was a little bit of a showing of what it looks like to do, some of the manifest upgrades. Anybody have any questions or just general questions, comments on Watem?
Hi, it's me, not totally audience plant. I was wondering if when I am using WDAM in production and I'm trying to run it, like what is there anything I can do to alert on like status changes if something's happening?
Great question, Taylor. Brings up exactly something that I didn't show during the demo. It's almost like you are a plant. Okay, so let's take a look at this. If we list the applications as I was showing before, I was essentially showing the deploy status as through the Wash API. But this status is represented in a NATS stream. So this Watem status stream will actually contain, it contains multiple messages. The way that streams work in NATS is you just publish as you normally do to a topic, but streams are specifically intended to, there are many different things they can do, but in this case, it's essentially taking messages from that topic and storing them so that you can query them. And if I do a NAT stream get, I can actually grab the latest status for the Watem application at Clinic. And we can just see type ready here, right? There's nothing there's nothing more informative than what Wash is telling us. But if we were to deploy Pet Clinic 001 and then check the stream again, we can see compensating. And then I don't think anything here will trigger there we go. I was wondering if it would trigger the status message, but you can essentially watch this stream and this little script is just spinning over and over to check out the stream, but you can watch this stream for the status type until it becomes ready. And I think that the real NATS specific way of doing this would be to create a consumer on the stream, basically watching messages come through. I'm kind of doing it in a lazy way by watching it and querying it every second. Taylor, you might have more to say there.
Yeah, I'm just going to point out the flexibility here, why I asked the question so that Bricks could show it off, was that you can consume the stream data to build monitoring and other common SRE type tasks on top of WDAM with ease. You can do it with basically a stateful thing, which is the stream, where you can make sure you have consumed every event that has happened, which could be useful for building another system on top of this. Or you can also just subscribe to the NATS topics. So you can subscribe to wadam.status.default.caret or .star actually, because it's just the thing. And so any status changes will be reflected as you do things. So I'm pretty sure if Bricks goes and deletes this, you'll start seeing messages come in as they're emitted. So you have two different ways of consuming this data, depending on the need for your for whatever you're trying to alert on. Most people probably can just consume the Nats topic, but you can also consume a stream, like I said, for the more like stable type of workloads.
Yeah, I can totally see us having an extension on Wash App deploy where we also, Taylor, you know a little bit about wait flags. We could add like a wait flag to Wash App deploy, and something that you say, hey, deploy this application, and then wait until the status reports is ready before you finish executing the command. I think that would be I'll let Taylor have the ultimate say on that one. But I think that would be a really neat way to be able to know when your application is fully deployed.
Yeah, essentially it makes it simple to do like an easy back off too. Like if you see it go to error state, you can back it off to the previous version. Or we can build that into into Wash. Those are the kinds of things that you can see in the future with having this data available.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, well, I guess I'll pause really quick. Any other questions or comments on Wadham?
Yeah, Cedra here. I have a quick question. I know the D stands for deployment, but are there any features that sort of support developing components in the context of all of the providers and other components that exist without having to go in and say, update the minor version every single time and hit deploy? Because I know that exists. There's like an experimental feature in Wash where you can do that for a particular actor, but can you do it on the state where you give it the Wadham YAML and say, look, just any hot reloads, any changes you see, deploy them so I can see what it's going to look like. And is that in the pipeline by chance?
Yeah, great question. So this is something that technically works now, and I can try and live demo this as well. While this builds, I'll give a spiel. This is something that technically works now, and we're really trying to look at for a really polished developer experience around developing actors and providers, all the components for wasmCloud. So in this manifest, actually, let me grab this really quick. Just gonna double check that. Okay, clinic APIs. So in this manifest, this image reference does not have to be an OCI image reference. So if you wanted to develop instead with a local version of an actor, you can add in you can technically do a relative path here. Just depends on where you launch Wash from, or where you launch Wadham from, where you launch Wash from. So it's a little bit harder to actually line this up right. But you can actually point this directly at a file on your local file system, and you just have to have this kind of prefix the file :/wash to denote the kind of the protocol. But if we wanted to swap this out to be using a file instead, we actually could do that. And let me go ahead and bump the version one more time. 005. So if we deploy Wadham, we'll see how well this works. Did that work? Okay. I'm just going to try to restart it, just because I haven't tried that specific scenario before. Okay, get rid of some of the old things. Essentially what I'm getting at here is you can swap the OCI reference out for a local file. And what this does essentially has Wadham managing the state of that. Oh, there you go. What are you doing there, Pet Clinic? Oh, okay. It might have just sent off those commands and then waited. Let me get the inventory to check that. Now you can see basically that the Pet Clinic API actor that we deployed, instead of being from an OCI image reference, it's from a file instead. So this is my local file system. And the part that I really want to tease out here is when you make a change to your actor, right? Like you can make any changes here. You can run wash build to regenerate the actor. The all you have to do in order to get Wadham to run the new, or to run the new version of the actor, is to scale down the pet clinic API to 0. And then the act of stopping those actors kind of seems like I'm in a little bit of a half deploy state. But the act of stopping those actors. So here, I'll try it again. We stop all the pet clinic API actors. Wadham sees them exit the lattice and it says, hey, go start more of those actors. And wasmCloud pulls them directly from disk. So essentially here, the hot reloading is the stage that is the step that we have to add. But what I really like about Wadham here is that if you're developing on a single component, Wadham lets you define all of the other related actors and the related providers and all their configuration. And then you can just essentially iterate on that one component. Taylor, you had some thoughts?
Yeah, I was just going to add that, like you basically said it, Brooks, but like CJ, that's a great question. And we did know that this was possible using the file thing, but we're trying to think around like some other developer workflows that could be really handy, whether that's just like some, like whether like we put something in a wash that does the step of scaling down to 0 or whatever for you automatically, and then puts it up. Like, I don't know what we can make it look like, but if you have any ideas around this, or if anyone listening to this now or in the future has any ideas about like, oh, I'd love for it to do this, or I think I could make it work this way, like please open an issue, PR, whatever. Because then we can see like the different ideas people have to solve this issue.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, guys. I have a couple ideas, so I might post an issue.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. This for inspiration, this wash dev command, which is currently marked as experimental, is kind of responsible for monitoring a single actor like a single local actor. So I think we could have really sweet a really sweet experience by combining the ideals of wash dev, which does watch an actor locally for changes and will hot reload it, and Wadham, the ability to define all the configuration and the links that you need. I think we could have a really sweet experience there. Yeah, Bailey, if you're available to chat, go ahead and throw that out there. Otherwise, I can read that too. But I completely agree with you there. Bailey's message in the comments just said, I want a tilt experience. Tilt is like as long as I'm not completely wrong, it helps with the developer iteration loop on a Kubernetes application, and it's really is a really sweet experience compared to like rebuilding containers, rescheduling deployments, all of that stuff. That'll be really good inspiration for getting that ready. Right. Well, I think that's all that I had for the Wadham section. I think next week, since it probably won't release this week, next week I'd love to demo some of the work on validating manifests when we put them, to make sure that they are, they're going to work well. There's not going to be any obvious conflicts for when we start the application, and then we should be good to go with Wadham releasing 0.5. And from there, we'll just cut a new release of Wash that includes that version. And hopefully we can add a little bit more documentation and an example too, so that you all can run through it. But this should just be essentially a wholesale improvement over Wadham 0.4, just implementing some of the things past MVP to make it feel real nice. All right, well, we can go ahead and move on to the next section of the community call then, I think. So the next thing that we wanted to talk about is just do a general roadmap update on really where we are in general with the roadmap, and then talk about the Rust host and Woodify efforts. If you weren't in the community call last week, we do have let's zoom out just a little bit now. We do have a roadmap set up in GitHub. And so if you are looking for how to get there, you can actually go to let's click all the things so you get to where you want. You can go to github.com/wasmCloud, and then you can navigate to the project section and then see the wasmCloud roadmap there. So this is totally open. Anybody can make it here. And we've got a couple of different views here, but I'm going to focus on the work status view just for now, just to show some of the things that we are working on at a high level. I'd love to do an update here. So we can see we've completed a couple of things from when we opened the roadmap last week, just getting everything cut up on status. And right over here, the one that I really want to call attention to is this blocked effort. This issue is not really encapsulating the whole effort of calling the wasmCloud Rust host done, but this specific issue, once the Rust host is up to feature parity, will be able to be worked on. And so over here in the ready for work and in progress section, we have some big efforts going on, especially around 2 issue milestones, which is the Witify effort, changing all of our interfaces over to Wit, and then expressing our logic in actors and providers based on that. And then a new milestone, which I asked Roman and Connor to get set up yesterday, and we've got kind of a scaffold here called OTP feature parity, which is just tracking the effort that's going on in the Rust host. So this project view is pretty nice for being able to filter by those. I don't think I had anything specific that I'd like to update on other than, we got some work in progress and it's really exciting. Taylor or Bailey, are you interested in, is there anything else that you'd like to add onto these, onto the efforts here in the roadmap?
I can give a bigger update on things. I do want to call out like some work being done. So various community members and people who are here, Connor and Roman, have been working a lot on the Rust host. Me and Victor have been working on witifying things. They've been kind of just trying to scaffold it all out, make it work. And Victor's been doing some heavy lifting around getting the code generation working, especially for providers. And so like those are all in progress. If you are curious in seeing what things are going on, I have, if you remember last week, I talked around like this idea of WASI fills and multiplexers and a whole bunch of concepts. I'd highly recommend going to the community call last week, the recording of that, and watching that if you want more information. But this is the example that has the WASI fill here at the top level and then the multiplexer in a subdirectory. These are just experiments. I'm working on, we're currently paused on this while some things happen inside of the WebAssembly community, because right now there's been a couple changes that landed, so things aren't completely working together until they all get to basically the next tag. So we're working on solving that, and that'll solve some of my issues with putting together the WASI fill and then composing it all together. And then we'll have the magical moment where everything just composes together and runs as described last week. So that is where we're currently at. I think I saw maybe like Connor or Victor in here. If they're available, they can say something. Otherwise, like that's kind of the status of where things are at. We're moving along with the Rust host, getting most of the core functionality in. We should be getting done in the next few weeks with at least the core functionality, so we can show like that it can run what we expect it to run.
Oops, I did not mean to stop sharing there. If anybody's interested in just tracking this at a pretty high level in the wasmCloud repository, like our home / where the Rust host and some other things are going on, there are also 2 issue milestones there that'll be important to track. And there's going to be some more things added for OTP feature parity, but you can see we're making really steady progress on Witify. And that's a really exciting effort. So if anybody has any comments or concerns or suggestions for the roadmap and issue milestones, really trying to keep these things a little more transparent at a high level, and we'd love to hear your feedback if there's opportunities to whatever. That wasn't a good English sentence, but we'll just keep moving on. All right. Did anybody have any questions for Taylor? I see there's one in the chat, but I think it was addressed. Kevin came in, Slowpoke. All right. Well, I think that's what we had planned for our for the wasmCloud section of the community meeting. I know that there is at least one exciting thing going on in the broader WebAssembly ecosystem. So I wanted to at least call attention to that. If you go take a look on the Golang site, on the Go blog, they released Go 1.21, big text. And if you scroll down here to the bottom, we see a nice little heading here, a new port to WASI. So Go 1.21 adds an experimental port for WASI. You can just set your Goose and your Gorch for WebAssembly, and you can compile things to WASM, which is a really exciting advancement in the Go space. There's a lot of complicated terminology around the pattern that Go uses for interacting with WebAssembly modules. And if Go, wow, that's what I think of you. If Jordan is here, he could maybe give a little bit of extra comments on how his work is going with creating Go actors. As you know, wasmCloud has had support for TinyGo for quite a long time for actor languages, but this is a really exciting. This port to WASI supports command only modules, and is specifically adding WASI support here in this version of Go, which is really exciting. I am totally coming up with all of that on my own and not just reading Bailey's comments. Bailey, is there more that you wanted to say here?
Yeah, I think you hit it all. Great job, Brooks. My puppet. No, that was perfect. And I think the main thing to highlight is that it doesn't allow for exports yet. So you can see in that comment, it says Go WASM import. So you can import things like from the host environment, which is, kind of hard. So they solved that first. But what they haven't solved is being able to export functions that are within your Go module so that your Go module can be essentially a library that other people can consume. And so that's a really powerful thing that we want. And I heard from many birds yesterday that folks are working on that, and we might have that in the next Go release. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's awesome. I'm gonna blind click a couple of links here. Oh, sweet. So this is one that Jordan sent me in the chat, but it looks like that the Bytecode Alliance is adding a Go subgroup and getting members together there, which is really awesome. I think that this is really exciting to have this in the pipeline. What groups are there now in SIG-GAS languages? Python, JavaScript, TypeScript, and Go. Very exciting. Well, this is really cool. I can't wait to add all of these things to wasmCloud around the language support. All right. Well, that was what I had from the broader WebAssembly ecosystem. Liam, I see you sent a couple of links here in the chat. Looks like for the Bytecode Alliance Componentize the World. Do you want me to go ahead and share some of those things?
Yeah, that's right. If you want to just open up the 2 links, that'd be awesome, Brooks. Just a quick call to action to everybody. You can catch up with the wasmCloud team and the Cosmonic crew at 2 upcoming events. There's the Linux Foundation's WasmCon 2023, helping in Bellevue, Washington, September 6th and 7th. And that will be followed by the Bytecode Alliance's Componentize the World, or as I like to refer to it, Bacon, Bytecode Alliance Con, where we're going to take the new standards and all the exciting stuff you learn about at WasmCon and put it into practice, taking popular libraries and frameworks in various languages and turn them into reusable components that work on any cloud or edge, including your own. So look forward to seeing as many of you there as possible in the ecosystem. Cosmonic will be there as sponsors, and wasmCloud will be represented in a couple dozen talks at least. Back to Brooks with the weather.
Hey, thank you. Well, sweet. I think that is it's pretty sweet to have some movement in the broader. There's always things moving around, but it's great to have some of the noteworthy things that we can share here, at least that I'm aware of. So I always like adding some things from the broader WebAssembly ecosystem at the end here. I think we've got some time though left in the rest of the call. So I'll go ahead and open the floor for This can be relating to anything that we showed off today, or just general things that folks would like to talk about in the wasmCloud ecosystem. I'll go on mute for a few minutes and see if there's interest.
The WASI subgroup meeting tomorrow is going to go over a proposal that we put in 2 weeks ago that defined what's going to go into WASI Preview 2. We kind of came up with a set of launch criteria, which essentially comes down to we've got these 2 different types of interface definitions that are generally useful. They have more than one implementation and they've reached a level of stability. Once we have that, then we're going to basically call WASI Preview 2 launched. But it's a window of launch in that there may likely be other different types of interfaces and worlds that also reach a level of stability and implementation that could eventually be added to that set that we kind of consider what is WASI Preview 2. And so we're going to have an open discussion tomorrow, going over that a little bit more. There was a lot happening over the last week or so in that issue after we made that proposal. So if you're interested in that, definitely join. That's part of the W3C.
I think we might have an early end, Brooks. It's been our first and for a little bit. That's nice.
I was going to say, as much fun it is for you, me, and Bailey to just kind of look around in this virtual space, I think we'll probably go ahead and call it now. Thanks everybody for coming to the community community meeting this week. As usual, please let me know or let us know in Slack if there's anything that you'd like to demo or discuss next time. And I think with that, we'll just post notes shortly after the call. Thanks everybody.